I reborn 2 weeks before the zombie arrive. When I woke up, I didn't know what to think. At first, I thought I was still in a nightmare, maybe still in the chaos of the last days. The small apartment I had been stuck in for years, the broken-down furniture, the same old cracked window that barely let in any light. But when I looked at my phone, I saw the date. It was the same date as the day I died, the day the world crumbled, the day I saw her again, my mother. I felt a pit in my stomach, like I was swallowed by the darkness of it all. The woman who had tossed me aside, who never once looked at me like I was her daughter, the woman who cared more about her image than me, than my life. I hated her. I hated how she made me feel so small. But even after everything, part of me still wondered, is she okay? But I pushed those thoughts away. There was no room for that anymore. When I realized I was back in time, I knew what I had to do. I couldn't make the same mistakes I made before. I couldn't wait for someone to help me. I had to help myself. I started by remembering everything. The hotel, her, that day. The way she looked at me like I was a ghost, like I wasn't even standing there. I remember it so clearly. The hotel was busy, like always. Guests rushing in and out, fancy suits, expensive shoes clicking on the polished floor. And there she was, strutting through the lobby, her head held high like she was the queen of the world. When she saw me at the front desk, she didn't even blink. Not even a smile. Nothing. I gave her the key to the penthouse suite with my hands shaking. I didn't want her to see how much she hurt me. I didn't want her to know that after all these years, I was still that little girl, desperate for her love, for her approval. I forced a smile and handed her the key. "Enjoy your stay, Ms. K," I said, trying to sound professional. I felt my heart in my throat, and my hands felt clammy. She didn't even look at me as she took the key and walked past like I wasn't even there. She didn't see me. Not the daughter she abandoned, just a hotel receptionist. And then it was over. I didn't think about her much after that. I didn't expect to see her again. Not until the next day when the world went crazy. The screams echoed through the hotel, sharp and terrifying, cutting through the air. I rushed to the front desk, but before I could understand what was happening, the infected appeared. People twisted, their eyes wild, their bodies shaking with hunger. The lobby became a mess of people running and shouting, trying to get out, trying to survive. I wasn't ready. I couldn't even think straight. The security team ran past me, rushing toward the exits. They didn't care about the guests. They didn't care about me. I was just another body in the way. The next few moments felt like a blur. 1 second I was there trying to help, trying to do something, and the next I was shoved out into the street. I stumbled, my breath coming in fast, too fast. The world had turned into chaos in an instant. But in the back of my mind there was still one thought. What about her? Was she okay? Was she locked in her room, hiding from the madness? Or had she already been taken? I ran, desperately trying to escape the infected, but the street was full of them. They were everywhere, attacking anyone they could find. I barely made it to a side alley, but I saw enough to know that this was the end. I didn't know if she was alive. I didn't know if she even tried to fight for herself. But I realized, standing there in that alley, that I didn't care. The woman who had given me nothing, who had thrown me aside, was no longer my concern. She was just another person, lost in a world that no longer cared about status or money. And when I woke up again, alive, back in my old apartment but different, there was no question. I knew what I had to do. I didn't waste time. I didn't wait for anyone to tell me what to do. I knew the world was going to fall apart, and I had to be ready. I remembered the phone number, the one I had seen when I booked her room at the hotel. It was like it was burned into my mind, even though I hadn't tried to remember it. It was just there. A part of me knew it would be important. So I called her. The phone rang once, twice, before she picked up. "Hello?" Her voice was cold, sharp, like she had been expecting this call. I felt the anger rise in me, but I kept it down. I couldn't afford to lose control now. "It's me," I said. "Your daughter." There was a pause on the other end. I could hear her breathing. Maybe she was trying to place me, trying to figure out if I was the same one. But I didn't care anymore. I didn't need her to remember me. You left me like I was nothing. I stayed silent out of respect. But if you don't want others to know, give me money. 1 million. I heard her gasp, but I didn't give her time to respond. It wasn't long before the money was transferred into my account. No questions asked, no attempts to make me change my mind. She gave me the money like it was nothing, like it didn't matter to her. Right away, I bought a secluded villa a few kilometers away from the city with the highest security place I could find. Steel gates, electric fences, private water source, security cameras, armored doors. It cost $700,000. Expensive, but worth every cent. I used the rest of the money to stock up. I made a list first. Food that wouldn't spoil fast, things that could last for months or even years. I bought big bags of rice, flour, and oats, canned beans, canned chicken, tuna, and vegetables, peanut butter, honey, pasta, powdered milk, salt, sugar, coffee, tea, energy bars and dried fruit too, the kind hikers use, anything that could give me strength without needing much cooking. I didn't just grab anything from the shelves like a panicked shopper. I was careful. I spread out my trips, different stores, different days. I wore plain clothes, kept my head down, no big grocery carts overflowing, just a few bags at a time, nothing to make people look twice. I bought a cheap used van with cash. No names, no paperwork leading back to me. It was old, dented, nothing flashy. Perfect. Every night I packed the food into black duffel bags. No boxes with brand names, no clinking cans. I wrapped everything in towels to muffle the sound. Then I loaded the bags into the back of the van under an old, dirty tarp. Driving to the villa took almost an hour through the back roads. I avoided the highways. Too many eyes. When I arrived, I pulled into the garage fast and closed the gate behind me before unloading anything. Inside, I stacked the food neatly in the basement. I lined the walls with shelves and put everything in order. Rice with rice, beans with beans, cans facing forward so I could see the labels. I also filled 2 giant freezers with meat, frozen vegetables, and bread. I knew the power might go out, so I bought backup generators and extra gas cans too. Solar panels were installed on the roof, enough to run lights, small appliances, and keep the freezers cold for a while if the worst happened. I filled huge water tanks and bought water purification tablets just in case. Medicine came next. Painkillers, antibiotics, vitamins, first aid kits, bandages, rubbing alcohol. I even found a place that sold antibiotics meant for fish that humans could use in emergencies. It wasn't ideal, but in the apocalypse, ideal doesn't matter. Alive matters. For weapons, I kept it simple. A baseball bat, a few hunting knives, and a pistol with silencer bought from a man who didn't ask questions. I cleaned everything myself. I practiced swinging the bat in the backyard at night when no one could see me. The villa had tall stone walls around it, a big metal gate, and security cameras at every corner. I changed the passwords on everything. I paid a trusted electrician extra cash to make sure the alarms couldn't be hacked. By the end of the first week, the villa looked empty from the outside, but inside it was a fortress. I created fake accounts and started posting on Twitter, Facebook, and every other social media platform I could about the zombies and the need to stock up on food. Everyone laughed at me. No one believed a word I said. So I decided to make a prediction. Something dark. I said a man would fall off a balcony and die while live streaming. It would make a scene, cause chaos. I knew it would grab their attention. And sure enough, it happened. Just as I predicted. Some people still didn't believe, but I knew I'd managed to shake a few of them. Then the zombies came, just like before. The same twisted scenario played out. People screaming, getting tackled, torn apart. Their screams drowned out by the growls of the undead. Cars collided, chaos spreading like wildfire. The city crumbled, completely unprepared for the onslaught. And I felt a sick being in the apocalypse the second time around. It's been a while now. And the outside world? It's a mess. But inside the villa is safe. The first time I saw the zombies, I felt that cold wave of panic, but I didn't let it show. They were everywhere. At first, just a few, wandering the streets, but then more and more showed up. The noise outside was constant. Shouts, screams, the growls of the zombies, the cars crashing. I didn't know what to do at first. The electric fence around the villa was a good start, but it wasn't enough, not if people came for what I had. They'd try to climb over, break through. So I started thinking. One evening, I stood by the window and watched the zombies shuffle through the streets. I didn't know if they'd come here, but I didn't want to take any chances. I had to do something. I got an idea. I turned on the electric fence, then grabbed some of the meat I had left. I tied it to a rope and tossed it out into the yard, just beyond the fence. The zombies followed the smell, drawn to the meat. It didn't take long before they were right outside, clawing at the fence. The more noise they made, the less the robbers would try to come near. People don't mess with a place full of zombies. It was my way of making sure I could sleep at night without worrying. I could hear the occasional voice, yelling outside the gate, asking for help. But I stayed quiet. I didn't open the door. I wasn't going to risk it. If they were desperate enough to come here, they were too dangerous to trust. I spent most of my time inside, trying to stay calm. I didn't know how long this would last. The world was falling apart outside, and I didn't even know if I'd survive it. One night, after I'd finished a bowl of noodles, I heard something outside. Not the usual sounds of zombies, but something different. Voices, low and urgent. I grabbed the gun with the silencer I'd kept hidden under the couch. I didn't want to make noise. I needed to stay quiet. I slowly crept to the window, looked through the blinds. There were people outside, just a few, but they looked desperate. Dirty, hungry, maybe even scared. They must have been watching the villa, waiting for the right moment. I didn't hesitate. I opened the window just a crack and took aim. I shot once. The silenced gun was quiet, but I knew the message would be loud. The people outside scattered, running off into the night. They weren't going to get what they wanted here, but that wasn't the end of it. The next few days, the zombies got closer. They kept piling up by the electric fence, getting drawn in by the meat I'd left out. It kept the robbers away, but it also made it harder for me to leave the house. The worst part? I still didn't know if anyone was left out there. I didn't know if the world would ever get better. I didn't know if I'd ever see anyone again, but I couldn't dwell on it. I had to focus on what I could control, keeping the villa safe, keeping myself alive. I kept to a strict routine. Do physical exercise, I ate my noodles, watered the little garden I had started, and made sure the electric fence was working. I checked my supplies every day. It's dwindling, but should still sustain me for another 3 months. Then I would rely on the vegetables. Another month passed. The city I was in was being cleared by the army. They had established a survivor camp, and people were being rescued and sent there. I waited another month, packed a large bag, stocked up on food, grabbed a tent, thick blankets, and some clothes. When the army guided me to the camp, I told them about the villa I had stayed in and informed them of some food and vegetables that could be used if resources became scarce. They took note and thanked me. In the camp, I was placed in the basketball court, which was now crowded with tents everywhere. I managed to find a corner to settle in. Then I saw her. My mom, no longer the smug woman I remembered. She had lost weight, her once confident demeanor replaced by something more fragile. I went up to her, and when she saw me, she was stunned. I looked fairly normal, like I hadn't suffered through the apocalypse at all. Her face showed regret. Slowly, she came to me and apologized. She said, during her desperate time, she thought of me as her only remaining family. She admitted she had been wrong. Her words caught me by surprise. After that, she simply went on her way. I didn't know what to think at first, but I was relieved that this had opened her mind and made her acknowledge her mistake. Soon, my anger began to dissipate. I found myself able to look at her without feeling hatred. Somehow, we started talking. She told me about the past, how I reminded her of my cheating father, the man who had left us, even though I wasn't at fault. Slowly, the conversations grew more normal. I discovered that despite everything, we shared a love for gardening. Eventually, the zombie apocalypse came to an end. The city was rebuilt. I moved back into the villa and started a new life. Occasionally, I would meet my mom for coffee. The end.